Okay, I'm going to show you a few things here. First off, this says that it's 160 columns by 58 rows, and that it's also 8.5 inches by 4.03 inches. Now, I have had a lady already test one of these patterns for the Dragon can cover that my son helped design. It actually fits around an actual regular soda pop can, like Mountain Dew or Pepsi or Coke or anything like that. It fits around it. So if you can take a bottle, a can of pop and measure around it, you will notice that it is not 8.5 inches around. Also, when doing your layout editors, this is what I wanted to get. This is the reason why I picked this particular pattern. When you're doing your layouts and you're making a layout for something, first off, try to make sure that your layout fits what you're doing. Okay, let's do the test layout here. Now, for this particular pattern, I've got a layout for it, but I'm going to use the test area, the test layout first, to show you the difference. Now, you see here I've got the text area, which that text area for this particular for my test here, it'll tell you that it'll tell you the pattern title, it'll give you the author's name, which is mine. It'll tell you what stitch it's done in. It'll tell you the amount of beads that are used. It'll tell you how many columns by how many rows. And it's not a loom pattern, so it won't give you anything under warp threads. In this second text area, it tells you what page of how many pages. So for this page that we're looking at, it's page 1 of 1. Once I add a second page, it'll say page 2 of what it'll, at the top it'll say, on the very first page it'll say 1 of 2 if I add a second page, etc., etc., etc. The only way that this can go on every single page is if you put a text box on each page up in that same corner. Okay? Now here, I don't have a preview of it on the main page. I've just got bead legend, which there's only 3 colors in this one. And this is the preview. You can preview each page that you make. Now see, this is what the preview looks like. It tells you Dragon can cover for Fiji. Author is Kimberly Johnson, which is me. It's done in peyote stitch. There's 9,280 beads used. It's 160 columns by 58 rows. And like I said, no warp threads. And it's page 1 of 23. Now, the reason it's 23 is because it's a totally different pattern than layout than what I'm using for it normally. And these are your 3 colors. Now, normally, this second page, which is the preview, normally I would have that up here on the first page, because it only takes up a portion of the page. Now, That's on page 2. See, pattern preview. And I've got it taking the whole page. Well, it don't need the whole page for the preview. And then next, you start your bead graph. Now, if you notice here on behavior, I have dynamic. That is one of the reasons why it takes up 23 pages on this particular layout. Another reason is because I have the size set to 20. If you have a smaller pattern, like maybe a 4 or 5 inch by 4 by 4 or 5 by 5 or something like that, that can go on one single page for your graph, then do that. But if I were to do that, if I were to do, instead of dynamic, if I were to do fit, this is what my graph would look like. So when you're doing your graph, you have to make sure that it is dynamic if it's this big. So changing it back to dynamic and going back to that same page, this is what you get on the first page. And if you notice, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12 pages just for the graph. Now that's because I've got it at size 20. Now, if I lower that down, let's say 16, and then click preview, you'll see that you've got 2, 4, 6, 8. Now you're down to 10 pages. And you can still read your chart. See, you can still read your graph if you do your beading by the graph instead of the word chart. Now, let's say I took that down to 12. This is what it would look like with 12. You can still read your alphabet. And instead of having 10 pages, you've now got 2, 4, 6, you now got 8 pages. So depending on the size that you choose, this size right here, depending on that size, is depending on how many pages for the bead graph you will have. Okay. Now, because you can still read it, I can probably go down to 11 and still be able to read it. See, you can still read the A's, the B's, and the C's. Okay. Can we drop it down to 10 and still read it? Well, let's see. You probably can't see it here on the phone, but yes, you can still read my letters even with going down to size 10. And actually, if you look at your page up here, you're now down, if you look at your first page, you're now down to 19 pages from 23. So you've already cut out 4 pages there. Okay? Now, another way that you can downsize the number of pages is your word chart. Now, I've got it on 12, and let me show you what 12 looks like. Now, you can partially see them here in the phone here. But I'm going to show you something. This is size 12, and I have it double spaced so that you can see your actual rows instead of single spacing them and they're right on top of each other. Now, if I also have this on dynamic. If I put that to fit, this is what you get. And there's no way you're going to be able to read what that is. And it doesn't matter what size you put that at. And I'll show you what I mean. It does not matter. You can have it up on 26. But as long as you have that set to fit, it will not change. Okay? So put it back down here on 12 and turn it back to dynamic. Another thing that you can do for the word chart, if you don't want it to be dynamic, you can, because of the way this is written, you can put this over this way and another one here. For some reason, my mouse is going out of whack here. Come on. There we go. Now, you can do it like that, because right now I don't have anything on the next page, okay? The word chart will take that up. Now, if you notice, this is set up exactly the same as the first one. So now, let's do a preview. Okay, it didn't do it right. What the heck? Okay, let's cut these. Now, you got to do this when you first do it, otherwise it can do that. Now, let's see if it did it right this time. See, even with having it on dynamic, just them two squares, it cut out all the rest of it, but then it squished them all. Okay? So, oh, duh, it's on fit. No wonder. Let's go to dynamic preview. Okay, on dynamic, it'll do the first page with the two, but then every other page we'll cut this side out and just leave it all on one side. Okay? So you don't want, if you're going to do it this way, you have to make each additional, you have to go each next page with two. And you have to pull them both down, because it's not like the graph. Okay, the graph will add more pages like identical to it if you do the graph like this. Put it up on preview. See, always preview. Always preview your work. So no matter how you do it, always preview it, and make sure you leave a little bit of room around the area that you want, because otherwise when you print it, you'll be losing some of your work. Now, see, now it shows you the thing. Now, because I only have one page with one line on it, let's take that down to 11 and see what that does. Yeah, see, it knocked off that last page and put more rows on the last page. So now from 23, you're now down to 18 pages. And then once I do this other thing, let me go back to the first page here. Let's go back to the pattern preview page. Now, first, because there's only 3 colors, let's shorten this up to here. Now, let me show you what that did. It still left it here, but now you have that open space here, okay? Now, come in here to pattern, and put your pattern preview on there. And then click next and cut that page and slide your bead graph to that page. Cut it from this page. Put your word chart here. Go to your next page, cut word chart from there. Now you got 1, 2, you got 3 pages that you actually made, but let me show you the difference here. Now you have 17 pages, and you started out with 23. So you're down a total of 6 pages because, one, you moved your preview to the main page. You downsized the size of your graph. And then you also downsized your letters, your word chart. Now, I know this is a longer video than I've been putting up, but I wanted you to see what the difference is in the sizes that you use. The bead legend, it's on 16. I can take that down to 12, and if you look, all three of them are up here. Now, the only problem with doing it with 12 is it's hard to read. So let's change that to 14 here. And then preview it. Now, see, you can actually read the words of the color. And, that's easier to read. And you have your preview of your pattern here so people can see what it is that you are actually doing. Okay? What they're actually going to be working on. But it did not change the number of pages you have. The only thing that's going to change the number of pages you have is your bead graph and your word chart. The bead graph changes depending on the size and whether you use fit or dynamic. The same thing with the word chart. It depends on the size and whether you fit or dynamic. Now, fit works well with some things like my earrings. It works well with earring patterns. Now, let me get out of this pattern here. And let's see. Now, this one here. As you can see, I don't know if you can see it in the video or not, but the peyote goes across instead of on the edges. Okay? I did it that way so that you could put your clasp, either a slide-on or whatever, on the ends, and you can brick it out to a size that actually fits you. Now, in the tools, in the layout editor again, let's go over here to my bracelet layout. And I have what I call a bracelet layout wide. And I'll show you why I made that in particular. Now, again, we have our normal text area which gives the pattern title. We have a text area that tells you how many, the page of page. Now we have another text area here. What I did with that is I separated all the information I had up in this number 1 text area here. I separated it into a second set, so that the only thing in that other one is the actual title of the pattern. Now I'll show you what it looks like here in just a minute. This text area tells you your bead legend. Because when you put the beads up there, it doesn't say bead legend, it just tells you what the beads are that you're using. It doesn't say bead legend on it. And then I have my pattern preview. Now let me show you the preview of this one. Now see, I've got 5 colors, and it fits all 5 colors in here. It tells you that this is the bead legend. This is your pattern preview. It's a peyote pattern. It's 120 columns by 18 rows. There's 2,160 beads and 5 colors. And it says size 6.37 inches by 1.27 inches. Now what I need to change there, which I can do it while I'm doing this, where it says size, I don't want to undo the whole thing, just type in approximate. Approximate size. And then see, it just automatically comes up, approximate size. But you definitely have to save everything you do on this. Now, the next page, this is how I split my graph for this pattern. This is the bead graph. Now, on the bead graph, you start up at the upper left here and go each row. This one, and then this one. And then next page has the word chart, which I did dynamic. It's okay to do the fit if you can, but I wouldn't use it all the time. Now, on the preview, I've got it at size 20, so let's knock that down to 14. See, you still have you can still read each one. Somehow I've got a blank page on it, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's only 5 pages. There's a blank page somehow. But as you can see, even dropping it down to where I did from 20, you can still read it. It's still double spaced because that's how I have it set up. I can even knock it down to 12. Let me see why there's an extra page here. Don't understand why. But now, dropping it down to 12, see, it cut out that extra page. I don't know why there was an extra page on here, but that extra page was blank. But you can still read it. So, I mean, work with it. Take your time and go through each page that you're making. Excuse me. Make sure. Sorry about that. Make sure that it is the way you want it to look. And make sure nobody's going to yell about well, why are there 60 pages to this pattern? You'll notice if you get into tapestries that you will wind up with a lot of pages. And you don't want to drop your text size down lower than 12 when you've got a tapestry that you're working on. You don't want to drop your bead graph size down to 12 on something like that. Mainly because those are the only two that I say to use your larger sizes on and make the pattern readable. In other words, make it so that they can actually see the letters, because if you don't, you're going to wind up with a black graph. So I hope this longer I hope this longer video about the sizes of your text, the sizes of your pattern preview, which the pattern preview only gives you an alignment of either left, right, or center. And I always use center on it. But use your behavior, use your fit, use your dynamic. Now, like on this graph, I have it as fit because I have it so that you can see the letters even with fit. It fits it on this page, and you can still see the letters in the graph. But with the word chart, I had to go dynamic instead of fit because of the way it is. See, you've got 120 on the first, for row 1 and 2 together, and then you've got 60 on rows 3 through 7. And you'll have 60 on each consecutive row, but once you get to row 8, you've got the different colors coming in. So you don't want, this is the type of pattern that you do not want to use the double column of the word chart. Now, I don't know why that keeps doing that, but now let me show you the same pattern done in the other way. This is the normal. This is the normal peyote of the same pattern. And this is the layout I use for that. It's just simply labeled bracelet layout. And it's the same general idea, except that your preview is over on this side, your colors are on this side, and I used my double layout, my double columns for the word chart, which made it 4 pages instead of what it could have been. So I hope this longer video helps with the layouts and the sizes. Let me know.